Hi, my name's Paul Grogan. Welcome to my Games of the Month video log for April 2024. As always with these videos, I'm going to be talking about all of the games that I've played in the last month, giving you an update on what's coming new to the channel, Patreon update, and some details of the contest. Let's start off with the contest. So last month I was offering a copy of Kingmaker 2nd edition, kindly donated to me by Alan Paul from Surprise Stare Games. And all you needed to do, I mean it's too late now, but all you needed to do was leave me a comment in this video and enter the contest with clicking on the link in the form. We only had 75 people enter, which is a bit of a low number considering how many views this video gets. So just as a reminder, the contest is open to everybody. If you're watching this video, you can click on the link in the description and you can enter the contest. But anyway, the winner for last month was Ryan Zombo. So congratulations, Ryan. I've already been in contact with you and Alan's got all of your details, and let me know when the game arrives. So that's that. Now, the details of the contest for this month. If you remember, a couple of years ago, I did a playthrough of one of these fantasy choose-your-own-adventure game books called Heroes of Urowan, I think it was called. Anyway, it was David Velasco who was the author of it, and David contacted me and basically offered to send me a copy of that book at the time. Now, David has been back in contact with me. David is an author. He's written various books, and also he was involved in the Harakiri game, which I did cover on the channel. I did a playthrough video for that. David was involved in writing all of the narrative elements. I don't know about all of them, but certainly a lot of them, and the story elements to the game and things like that. Anyway, David has been in contact with me, and he's been working with a partner of his for quite a while now on a new series of game books, and he sent me the link to them, and I'm going to show a picture of this on the screen now. These are called Huge Game Books, and there's actually 3 of them that are available. They're bought individually, and each one of them is like $23 on Amazon, I think. But David has basically said, Paul, I know you covered Heroes of Urowan. Would you like a copy of these new game books? Now, I had a look at these game books, and the reality is they are huge. They are absolutely massive. And I went back to him and I said, look, I'll be honest with you. I really appreciate the offer of you sending me these books, but the reality is I'm not going to be able to get a chance to cover these on the channel. But if you're happy to send a copy, then I'll use it as a giveaway. So the giveaway this month is for all 3 of the books. If you're interested, take a look at the website. It's huge-gamebooks.com, I think it is. You will find details in there of what these books are. And as I say, they are similar to Choose Your Own Adventure style books, but they're absolutely massive. They are huge. The scope of these is quite incredible. And to enter the contest, all you need to do is click on the link in the description of this video to enter the contest, and also leave me a comment on this video and let me know which of the games I talk about in this video are your favourite games and why. So yeah, if you can do that, just leave me a comment in this video, but also you need to enter the contest. I will match the 2 things up and I will choose a winner. And if you are one of my Patreon supporters who fund this channel and make these videos possible, then you will get extra entries into the contest. But that doesn't mean if you're not a Patreon supporter, you can't win. Just means that you have more chance of winning if you are one of my Patreon supporters. Right, that's that. So let's talk about all of the games that I've played from the 1st of April right through to the 1st of May. I'm actually recording this video on Thursday, the 2nd of May. So I'm actually going to cover right up to last night because we played an epic game last night of ISS Vanguard. So let's talk about ISS Vanguard. And let's try not to talk for half an hour about ISS Vanguard, which might be quite difficult. So ISS Vanguard, we started the campaign early this year. And in the last, since the 1st of April, I've played 5 sessions of it. We're basically playing once a week round at Rick and Victoria's house. It started out on a Tuesday night. It has now moved to a Wednesday night. And these are live streamed for my Patreon supporters. So if you're a Patreon supporter of mine, you get to watch us playing. It's basically it's a webcam sat on top of a couple of boxes of games. So the quality isn't great, isn't as usual isn't the same as my usual studio standard quality. But yeah, if you want to watch us while we're playing, then you can. Now, without giving any spoilers away, ISS Vanguard is currently my favourite game that I am enjoying. I know last month I said that Tainted Grail was my favourite game that I'm playing at the moment, and we'll get onto Tainted Grail in a minute, but ISS Vanguard I think has replaced it. ISS Vanguard is just wow. I mean, I knew that the game was going to be good when I worked on the rulebook for the game and I was helping them out with it way back when, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And then I remember, and I covered this on the channel, so on the public channel, you will find 2 playthrough videos from me, the tutorial and playthrough video for the actual tutorial scenario, and then the next planet that we landed on. And I knew at that point that it was great and we were enjoying it, but that tutorial mission and then the first mission you do afterwards doesn't actually, it gives you a good idea of what the game could be, but there's so much more to the game. And once you've got into the game, once you're 3 or 4 sessions in and you're actually developing the ship and you're doing these research projects that give you equipment and you're actually making really important decisions about which star systems you want to travel to and which planets you want to land on and which other side mission sort of quests, sort of things that you can do to explore, getting involved in the deeper story about what the campaign is all about is just absolutely fascinating. And there's a number of things that you don't really see in those first couple of tutorial missions. And that's what I want to talk about here, because these for me are some of the best parts about this game and what makes this game different. And I've been helping people on Board Game Geek with various forums. In fact, I replied to somebody this morning who's having trouble with the game and having difficulties with getting to grips with it. And something that I've learned over the last month, and I'm telling you this now, if you've already played ISS Vanguard, you probably know this already, but if you don't and you're looking to get into it, or you're about to start it, or you're just starting it, then hopefully what I've got to say might be of use to you. I've just got a really, really itchy nose. That means somebody's talking about me, probably Loki. In ISS Vanguard, you control the crew of the ISS Vanguard. Whilst on a particular mission, you might be controlling one particular character, but unlike a lot of other campaign-style games, you need to not get attached to that character. That character is just one crew member in a section on the ship, and there are lots of crew members available. So that's the first thing to get into your mindset. The other thing is, unlike a lot of these campaign games, you don't just go, oh, we're going to do that mission, and we're going to play that mission, and we're going to play that mission, and we're going to land on that planet, and we're going to do it until it's finished, and then we've succeeded, or we failed, whatever, and then we leave, and that's it. We don't go back. And I don't want to go back because I don't like to replay scenarios, okay? This isn't like your normal style campaign games where there is a scenario, and if you don't do that scenario, you then have to replay that scenario. It isn't that at all. If you go down to a planet and you leave that planet without having done everything that you wanted to do on that planet, there is a system for saving the status of that planet. You write down in each sector what's there, any threats that are on the board, and you basically make a note of everything that's there, and you save it, and you write it all down, you put it in the box, and then later you might go back to it. And when you go back to it, you get the save sheet out, and you go, right, this is how we left it. And the planets, generally speaking, are as you left them. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that because there are 2 occasions already where we've gone down to a planet and we have been given a primary mission to do, and we did that primary mission, but we didn't do everything that we wanted to do. So whilst we put a tick in the box and we accomplished the primary mission, which means we could lift off without suffering a penalty, there were other things to do on the planet. So we have made a note of them and we've saved the planet, and at some point in future, we're going to go back there. Now, also on the flip side, you might, and this is, I think, one cause of criticism for the game, which I think is understandable but unfair, because they're not understanding what this game is and how different it is. You might land on a planet and find it completely inhospitable. And you might be there and you might be like, oh, okay, this is just insane. It's so dangerous. It's so crazy. And this massive thing has just appeared and we're all going to die. And you might stay there and you might try and fight it because you think this is the scenario. This is what we're supposed to do. And then you all die. That could happen. So what you're supposed to do, I think, in this game is you land on the planet, and let's say you land on the planet and because the lander has to actually land, and that's like a little mini game. And we played one mission where we had such bad problems, like half of our lander blew up on our way down, and we lost most of our supplies, and all of the characters got burned. The story's amazing. You know, this all tells a great story. But you might have that. You might land on the planet. You might have lost most of your supplies. All of the crew members might be injured. You need to get into the mindset of, we can just leave this planet. You might just say, right, let's just go there, do that, and let's go. And let's come back later, because there's other things to see here. And that's it. This is more This is not just the linear start a scenario, play the scenario to the end, finish the scenario, and then if you replay it, you have to go back. No, if you decide to go back to that planet, it's pretty much as it was when you left it. So you're not going to replay a scenario as in go back over the whole thing again. It's not like that. And also, as I say, your crew members, they are expendable. Don't get yourself into the position where you're like, this is my crew member, I must keep them alive at all costs. Because ultimately, you've got a ship full of crew members. And we've lost our first crew member now, Boris. Sorry, Boris. But Boris is in the memorial wall, and you get a bonus whenever a crew member dies. I'm not saying go out and, bump them off at night, but it's all built in. So anyway, this game is amazing. The story is amazing. The way that the dice check system, which is very specific and quite complicated, and you have to follow it absolutely to the letter, otherwise the game will break and the game won't work. So you have to really do things step by step. But the dice check mechanism is actually so flexible that that same mechanism is used for everything that you do in the game, whether it be climbing up a cliff face, whether it be trying to analyze some alien life forms, or whether it be actually combat. Because there's no fighting rules in this game. There's no weapons that you shoot, roll to hit and damage or anything like that. It's all done through the dice check mechanism. So that's really good. As I say, the overall story I am really enjoying, and the narrative elements within each individual planet and the stories that take place on the planet are also fantastic. I know one of the things that a lot of people say about this game is that the ship book, where you are, base building, you are researching new technologies, you're unlocking new equipment, and you're progressing and you're doing all of that stuff. A lot of people have said that that is the best part of the game. Now, I have something to say on that. It's great, and you do get that dopamine hit of, oh, we've been researching this project and now we've got it, and we flip it over and, oh, look, we get this new cool stuff. That's great. But that's not the best bit of the game. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that the people who find that the best bit of the game is the ship book are actually missing out on what the actual best part of the game is. Now, I'm not saying the ship book isn't good. It is great, and it is really well done. But if you're getting more enjoyment over just flipping a card over and taking a new piece of equipment, you're missing out on the stories that are taking place within the actual landings and the adventures and things like that. So yeah, both parts together are really good, and it is fantastic. Now, we are 5 or 6 sessions in. I think we had session 6 last night. So we've got a lot more to go. I've heard that the campaign is probably something like 20 to 25 sessions, but it's just amazing. Right, that's ISS Vanguard. Next up, Tainted Grail. Now, I talked about Tainted Grail a lot last month because we played it a whole bunch. Unfortunately, due to a combination of various circumstances, both other games getting in the way, personal circumstances and everything else, me and Vicky haven't played much Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin. In fact, we've only played it a couple of times this month. One of those was for a couple of hours, and then another time was for about another hour. So we've only managed to get a few hours in. It is downstairs. It's been set up on the table downstairs for the past week, and we've been meaning to try and find some time this week to get back and just play for another hour or two. And as I say, things have been happening in our personal lives that have meant I've had absolutely no time whatsoever to do it. Tainted Grail is still fantastic, and what I will do is tell you about the boss battle that we had. So without giving any spoilers away about the story, but as you can probably know, there are these big figures in the box, and they are bosses, and the way that the boss fights work is brilliant. And I already said last month how it's fantastic. The game is amazing. Same designer, by the way, as ISS Vanguard. I'm a little bit of a fanboy. But the two games are so completely different. There is almost no similarities between the two systems whatsoever, apart from they are both narrative driven. But the way that the boss battles work in Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin it's increased my opinion on the game even more than it already was. I already was loving it, and I already loved the way it worked. But the way that the narrative elements are interwoven into a boss battle, and we had our first proper boss battle, and we lost. But the way that it's done is battles in Tainted Grail are through playing cards in a card sequence. And basically, you will play cards in this card sequence, and there is one sequence shared between everybody taking part in the combat. So if you've got 2 players in the combat, both fighting the boss, or both fighting whatever enemy it is, you will be playing cards into this sequence. And I love the card play mechanism in it. It's a really, really clever, interesting puzzle that requires quite a lot of thought and interaction and decisions and everything else. And it's not random, apart from the cards that you draw. But the way that the boss battles work is that every so often, when you play a couple of cards, or 2 or 3 cards, you will be told to read a section in the storybook. And that section will actually have a little bit of extra narrative. And suddenly, we were fighting this boss by just playing cards and everything else, and suddenly we were told to read this bit of narrative. And again, without giving any spoilers away, but this narrative was like a small break in the combat where he did something, he got angry and he smashed a pillar on the ground, or something like that. And suddenly this whole combat just felt extremely cinematic, like we were watching a film or something like that. It was brilliant. And then we did something else and we played a few more rounds of combat, and then another bit of narrative happened. Anyway, we lost that boss battle, and we've learnt a big lesson. So again, if you're playing Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin, this is the lesson that we learnt without trying to give any spoilers away. Our current quest was to go there and find this person and have a word with them. So we thought, right, let's go there. That's what the quest is. We will move through the land and we will go there. And we got there and we weren't ready for it. First of all, we weren't even fully healed, and we knew that we were going there because that's where the boss was, and we knew we'd probably have to fight it. But because we just I don't know, we felt maybe that we were rushing, and you shouldn't rush in this game. You've got to really, really think about it. And you've got to think, wait a minute, we're fighting the big boss. Maybe we should not go in if we've taken a few points of damage. Let's just wait back. So definitely don't rush into things. If your quest is to go to X, maybe hang around a little bit first to heal up. But also, it's hard to do this without giving spoilers away. We died. We both died. But thankfully, there was a little bit of narrative that said, look, we'll let you off here. You don't know what you're doing. You're newbies here. So we'll bring you back. You're going to lose a bit of stuff, but we'll bring you back. But here's some tips. Here's what you should do. Don't just rush into this fight. This is a really, really tough boss fight. You need to be prepared. So here's some tips on things that you can do, which will give you a bit of an edge in the combat. And suddenly we're like, yeah, we probably should have done that. We did have a couple of hints to do that first, but because the main quest was to go to X, we just went to X. The other thing that's really good about this game, and if you've only just started playing, you won't know this yet, but once you get into, I think it's chapter 4, I think it's sometime early in chapter 4, there's an inbuilt hint system into the game. Because one of the downsides of the original Tainted Grail is that you can find yourself a little bit stuck and a little bit lost. And you can find yourself in the middle of some kind of quest without really knowing where to do. And I'm looking at you, Chapter 7, because Chapter 7 was like, oh my God, we don't have any direction. We don't have anywhere or any clue of where we're supposed to go. But they fixed that with this one because there's this hint system. And again, without giving any spoilers away, that's what it is. It's a hint system, but it's thematically tied into the game. And at any point, once you've unlocked this hint system, you can basically ask for a hint on your current quest, and it will give you a bit of a direction on where you want to go. So that's really good as well. We need to play more Tainted Grail. We love Tainted Grail. Vicky loves Tainted Grail as well. She's been talking about quitting her job just so we could play more Tainted Grail. That's how much she's enjoying it. So anyway, that's Tainted Grail and ISS Vanguard. Thank you very much for watching. See you next month. No, I have played some other games, and if you're a bit worried that the Paul Grogan that likes his medium to heavy Euro games has disappeared and I've replaced them with campaign games, I haven't. I'm actually going through a phase where I am very, very happy with the games that I'm playing, because both Tainted Grail and ISS Vanguard are giving me amazing gaming experiences, and I am playing them alongside the standard Euro stuff, which, as much as I like it, is not giving me that same buzz. So, the start of the month, I went to BayCon. BayCon is a local convention to me. It's been running for 40 years. I've been going for about the last sort of 14 or 15 years since I moved down here, really. It's in Exeter, and I go along each year, and here's a list of the games that I played at BayCon. So, I played Planta Nubo. Now, Planta Nubo has been on my list to play again for a long time, because At some point later this year, I am supposed to be doing my top 10 games of 2023. And some of those games, like Planta Nubo, I'd only played once or twice. And there's no way that I can think, oh, where is this in my top 10 games when I've only played it a couple of times? So I really wanted to play it again. I also remember enjoying it and wanted to play it again to see how much I enjoyed it. So we played Planta Nubo, and it was quite rough because it's been so long since I played it. I remember some of the rules, but not really all of them. And it was very much a relearning game. Now, I did enjoy the game, but I think Planta Nubo is a little bit on the slightly too complex, slightly too fiddly side. It's a very good game, and it's very well designed, and it's very clever, and there's a lot of good bits to it, but there are some parts to it that I just think, this is appealing to people who like games of that weight and of that complexity, of which there are lots of them. But the heavier you make the game and the more fiddly rules you put into a game, the less accessible you're making a game. Now, I'm not saying every game should be simple. I'm just saying that my tolerance for the upper end of heavy fiddly games where there's lots of little bits to remember has got less over the years. Saying that, everybody who played it really enjoyed it. And I then got the chance to play it again later on that weekend. So I actually played it twice. Because after playing it that first time and having to go through the process of relearning it again, I was like, this is a really good game. And I now need to play it again after having been through the relearning process. And I got the opportunity 2 days later where a couple of other people were like, oh, we don't have a game to play. And I knew they both liked heavy games. I said, well, do you want me to teach you Planta Nubo? Because I've just relearnt it and it's really good. So I did. And they both absolutely slaughtered me. So yeah, I got to play it twice that weekend. And my opinion on the game is pretty much what I've just said. It is a very good game. It is very well designed. There's a couple of graphical incorrectness. There's some errata needed or some wrong icons. And the rulebook did need a bit of work. There were a few parts of the rulebook that were not completely clear. But the game is very, very good. It's just quite heavy and quite fiddly. So that's Planta Nubo. The next thing I played over the weekend was I had 2 or 3 games of Project L Square 1. Now, I actually covered this on the channel after BakeOn. These were my practice games. So I'm going to talk about that a bit later on. But what I will say is that Project L got borrowed from me about 4 or 5 times by various people over the weekend because it's a light, quick, simple game that a lot of people had played the original Project L and wanted to see what the new one was about. So yeah, we'll talk about Project L a bit more later on. Windmill Valley was the next big hit of BakeOn. So I played Windmill Valley once, and I think I played, because I'd already covered this on the channel. I think I covered it on the channel last month. But the reason why I played it there is that I had a number of my Patreon supporters that were like, Paul, you're coming to BakeOn. Can you bring Windmill Valley? And, we'll have a game of it. So I was like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I know the game. I know how to play the game. So I'm more than happy to, take some time out and teach you. And I like the game, so I'm going to play it again. So I played Windmill Valley once myself, but I think Windmill Valley got played about 8 times over BakeOn because the people I played it with, some of them then went off and taught some other people how to play. Another group of people borrowed it off me, learned how to play, played it, and then played it again with some other people. So yeah, Windmill Valley was really popular over the weekend. And that was good. But I enjoyed my one game of it. What was really interesting with that game I played of it is that one of the players, Mark, insisted on only ever rotating his gear once every time. Whereas the rest of us were like, well, once, sometimes twice, maybe even 3. Whereas Mark was very, very fixed. I'm going to move it 1 at a time. So by the end of the game, I think I triggered the end of the game by getting to the end. Mark was still only halfway through. He'd only advanced about halfway through. The 4 of us in that game all had very, very different strategies. Me going quite fast, Mark going painfully slow at times. And the scores were really even. It was very, very close. I think there was like 5 or 6 points in it between first and last place. But yeah, it was a really good game. So that was that. Other games that I played one of the best games of Voidfall because, Graham and Bill, thank you very much for that game of Voidfall. It was supposed to be 4 players. Unfortunately, one of the players had to pull out. But the plan was, we all know this game. And not only do we all know this game, we all know this game. Like, each of us have played it enough times that we are all comfortable with the game. So we played a game of it where we just set it up and we played it. And it was such a great experience to play with two people who, both of them I get on with really well, but also that knew the rules, that didn't have any questions, and you could just leave them to get on with doing their stuff. It was a fantastic game. We played on one of the high aggression scenarios, and then there was some player versus player combat. I think I came last, but it doesn't matter. Voidfall is still, like I've said before, my favourite game of 2023. Spoilers if I ever get around to making that top 10 video. And in my top 3 favourite games of all time. Love it, and I want to be playing Voidfall at least 4 or 5 times a year at various conventions and things like that. And I hope to maintain that because it is so good. So yeah, that was a good game. The next thing I did over the weekend is I played and taught 2 games of Galactic Cruise. Now, I've spoken about Galactic Cruise a number of times on these videos, but if you haven't seen any of my other videos or heard me talk about Galactic Cruise is my current favourite game of this year. Euro game of this year, because I banged on about ISS Vanguard and Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin. But as a Euro game, Galactic Cruise is just fantastic. And I've done a tutorial and playthrough video for it. The crowdfunding for it has ended, but I believe the pledge manager is open. But I can't get enough of this game. I'm actually going to be demoing it at UK Games Expo later this month. And as of yesterday, I have agreed that I'm going to be demoing this game at Essen Spiel this year as well. So yeah, I love this game, and any opportunity I get to show it to other people, I will. So I taught it twice over the Bacon weekend, and I played in both of those games. And then a friend of mine, Pete, who's been on the channel many times, he taught it, I think, once or twice over the weekend as well to various other people. So yeah, it's been played a lot, Galactic Cruise. But it's very good. And this is Paul in the editing room, realising that I'd forgotten to talk about Cuzco. So on one of the evenings at Bacon, I got to play Cuzco. Now, Cuzco is a Stefan Feld game published by Queen Games. It's the re-implementation of Bora Bora. I played it once a couple of years ago, and earlier this year I released the how to play video for the game. Now, the Stefan Feld City Collection, there's a lot of games in the series. There's 6 that have been published so far. There's another 2 on their way, and I believe there's going to be about 20 of them in total. I like different ones of those with different degrees. Marrakesh is my favourite one in the series. I think New York City is underrated. But when I was working on the how to play video for Cuzco, I was thinking, I really, really want to play this game. So I've been desperate to play this game for a couple of months. And thankfully I did get to play it one evening. I really like Cuzco. Now, Cuzco is the re-implementation of Bora Bora. Ironically, coincidentally, I have only ever played Bora Bora once, and that was at Bacon about 10 years ago. And I remember at the time not liking it. That was probably because I was way too tired or in a grumpy mood or whatever. I don't know. Cuzco is almost identical to Bora Bora. So identical that I don't really remember Bora Bora that much. And if you do know the differences between the 2 games, please let me know. Leave me a comment. Because, yeah, I don't know the differences. I've heard that there was a couple of tweaks. But other than that, no, I thought it was, very, very good game. And would definitely happily play it again. Very much a Stefan Feld point salad. But, yeah, one of the better games in the City Collection. Possibly my second favourite after Marrakesh. The last game that I played at Bacon was a game called Spellbook. Now, I am in the minority here that I actually quite like Spellbook. It's received fairly negative reviews in a number of different places. Enough negative reviews that it's enough to basically put it off people's radar. Because these days, with so many games coming out, all it takes is that a few people release videos saying, the game's alright, but it's meh. That's it. If you are somebody who has limited time, limited money, and limited space, and all of that lot, whenever you think about getting a new game, is that you will probably go online and you'll look and you say, oh, what did Dice Tower think of it? And what did this person think of it? And what did these people think of it? And all it takes is for the 3 or 4 videos that you watch, 3 of them to go, game's all right, that you would probably cross it off your radar. I know I probably would. So I'm in the minority that I actually like Spellbook. Now, this is a relatively simple game. And it is about collecting this materia and then using this materia to create spells and everything else. And it's, it's a 45-minute game, but I like it. I like the way it plays, and I like the way the different spells interact. My biggest issue with the game is it's too slow to start. And having spoken to a number of other people, it seems everybody else seems to feel the same way as well. And I'm, in fact, speaking to one of the developers about it this week, saying, I think the game is too slow to start. And I've actually got a house rule for the game. And what I'm going to do is I will try and remember this weekend, I have a list on Board Game Geek of my house rules for games, which I think make them better. I haven't updated that for a while, but I'm going to go on and I'm going to update my list for adding the house rule for Spellbook, which speeds up the start of the game. Because the biggest issue I find with Spellbook is your first turn is, I will take 2 materia, I'm storing 1, your go, you're taking 2 materia, you're storing 1, your go. The start feels very, very samey for everybody. Now, I spoke to the developers of this game way back when, because I remember that being an issue and being talked about at the time. And they said, no. You don't have to take 2 and store 1 at the start of the game. You could just take 2 and keep the 2, because then you've got 4 and everybody else has only got 3, and you've got more chance of getting an early spell. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, the group that I've always played with has always taken 2 and stored 1. But that isn't the only strategy. One of the things that you can do, and this won't mean anything to you if you don't know the game, is you could just take 2 materia and not store 1. Now, storing them is how you get points, but you could just say, I'm going to take 2, I'm not going to store 1. Now I've got 4. Next 2, I'm going to take 2, and I'm not going to store 1. And now I've got 6. And the more materia you've got, the more chance you have of getting a better spell. So my house rule is quite simple. At the start of the game, instead of just having 2 tiles and then you start playing, is everybody draws 4 and may store 1. There you go. What you've done is you've effectively skipped the first round of the game. And if you want to go a step further, you could say everybody draws 6 and may store 1 or 2. And suddenly you've saved 5 minutes. You've saved the first 2 rounds of the game. Anyway, I've tried it. It works. I'm probably going to play with that from now on. Anyway, Spellbook, I really like it. I've not covered it on the channel. I've not done a video for it. But yeah, I really like it. Now, the Sunday of BayCon, I don't actually attend. So I live fairly close to BayCon, which means I can just drive in each day. And traditionally, like for the last few years, I have not gone to BayCon on the Sunday morning. What I've done is I've had the Sunday morning where I have a bit of a lie-in, tidy the house, and then because BayCon finishes at around noon, I basically have an open house for any of my friends and patron supporters who have been to BayCon, who 4 days of gaming isn't enough for them, that they pop into my house on the way home and have a quick game. And that's what we did this year, except it actually turned out slightly different, and people just came here to play games on the Sunday, not necessarily on their way home. And we had a game of Inventions. Now, this was live streamed to Patreon supporters. This wasn't a public live stream, but it did go out live to Patreon supporters. And the reason it wasn't a public stream is I am going to be doing a proper public tutorial and playthrough for this game. And I'm actually doing it this coming Tuesday. And this was a practice game. And it's a good job it didn't go out, because we made lots of rules errors. It was very rough. I was relearning the game. And yeah, it was fine for a Patreon-only playthrough, but it wasn't a public one. Inventions is Vital Lacerda's latest game, which is being delivered to backers now. A lot of people have already got it. This afternoon, I am going to be putting the very finishing touches to the how to play video for that game. And then on Tuesday of next week, I am doing a live tutorial and playthrough in the afternoon. Pete and Arthur are coming around next Tuesday afternoon. And we're going to be doing a live playthrough of it. So bear in mind, I was commissioned to create the how to play video for this game, and I'm getting paid to make the tutorial and playthrough video for this game. I can tell you that I really like this game. And again, this is my personal opinion about the game. And I wasn't expecting to like this game. And the reason I wasn't expecting to like this game is because it relies heavily on things called chain actions. And it even calls them chain action tokens in the game. It's one of the big selling points of the game. Hearing lots of other people talking about it is that, oh, it's really good. It uses chain actions in a good way. Now, personally, and again, I might be in the minority in this, and this is just my personal opinion on things that I like in games and things that I don't like in games. I don't like chain actions in games, generally speaking. Now, there's a number of games which I enjoy, which have these nested actions or chain actions or combo actions or whatever you want to call them. But essentially, I prefer games where your turn is compartmentalized into something like, the size of a nut, whatever. I don't know. What I mean is, it's my turn. I'm going to do that. I do that, and that, and that's me done. That's my turn. That's what I like in a game. A self-contained turn where you do a thing. And loads of games these days, and especially common in Euro games, is, okay, I'm going to do a thing, right? My turn is I'm going to do that thing there. That thing there gives me 3 tomatoes. So I'm going to move 3 steps up on the tomato track. Oh, I've moved over that icon. What does that icon do? That icon moves me 1 step up the banana track. Okay, so hang on. I'm moving 3 steps up the tomato track, but the first step moves me up on the banana track. So I've moved up on the banana track. What does that do? That gets me 3 money. Right, I get 3 money. Now I need to carry on moving up on the tomato track. Okay, I've reached that space. What does that space do? That space, that allows you to do the discombobulation action. Okay, so that was one of the other actions that I could have chosen to do at the start of my turn. Yeah, you could have chosen to do that action, but you didn't. You chose to do that action, and that action moved you up this track, and that track allows you to do that action over there, right? Okay, so we're now going to do that action. Right, you get my point. Meanwhile, the other players are like, do we even get a go? Because, Paul's done that action, then he did this, then he did that. Now that action has triggered that action, and now he's doing a completely other action. So in principle, I don't like that as a game mechanism. Because A, it's confusing for the player to keep track of all of the different things they're doing. B, it causes more downtime for the other players while they're sat there waiting for one player to do it. That's the main thing, really. But as I say, there are a lot of games that use this in there that I quite like. Anyway, the reason why I wasn't expecting to like Inventions as much as I do is it has these chain actions in there. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to hate this. I'm going to hate this. I'm going to get so confused. I'm going to be doing all of this. Anyway, the reason why I don't hate it and the reason why I quite like it is unlike a lot of other Vittles games, each of these actions is actually fairly simple. So the travel action is I'm going to move one piece from there to there and gain a culture token. And if there's a sage, then I can take that sage and I can use the bonus on the tile. That's it. That's the travel action. Now, that bonus on the tile might be, I get to do the invent action. Right, okay, so what does the invent action do? Well, I choose an idea on the board, that one, and I'm going to invent it by putting a thing on there and flipping the card over. And I gain a technological thing. Right, done. So the actual actions themselves are fairly bite-sized. The theme of the game is nice. You are a society taking place over thousands of years from the early Stone Age right through to the modern era. And it's all about the inventions that society has had over that years. You are inventing things, you are innovating things, the ideas are being shared. It's got the classic Lacerda style player interaction in that you have to work with the other players to do things. You can't innovate on an idea you can't innovate on an invention that you invented, but somebody else can. And you will get the natural flow of the game. You will get people basically jumping on other people's ideas. That's not forced in the game, but it is just the way the game is played is like that. So I really like it. Anyway, watch this space for more videos on Inventions, Evolution of Ideas coming very soon. Next up, on the 10th of April, Reign of Hades twice. So Reign of Hades, I had already covered on the channel, and I think I'd already spoken about it on the channel. But Reign of Hades is a campaign game based on sort of myths and legends mixed with a fantasy setting, and it's a campaign-driven game. And one of the designers is Richard Amann, formerly from Mindclash Games. So it's basically what Richard has been working on since he left Mindclash Games and he set up Legend Crafters. And the Kickstarter was running, and they didn't have any coverage of scenario number 2. Now, I'd already agreed with them and I'd said with them that I'd be more than happy to cover the game again because I really enjoy the game. I think it's a really good game. And they wanted me to do a playthrough of scenario 2. So what I did is I took the day out and I had people coming over in the afternoon. And because the tutorial scenario and scenario 1, only I had played. Those were remote playthroughs with Richard and Attila teaching me how to play over a remote connection. So none of my local friends had actually played the game. So anyway, that afternoon, a couple of people came over, Paul and Pete, and we played through scenario 1. So we skipped the tutorial, we played through scenario 1, and then James arrived for the evening, and all 4 of us played through scenario 2. That's on the channel now. This is old news, the Kickstarter for the campaign, or was it GameFound? I can't remember. Anyway, the crowdfunding campaign for the game has finished. There's probably a pledge manager available. But yeah, if you're interested, check that out. I really like the way that the game works. It's very different from a lot of other games, the way that it deals with the team play between one's in cover and one's in the battlefield, and there are certain things you can do in cover and you can help out. The card play, the action selection is just really clever. It's actually quite innovative on the general, because we've got so many, it's a fantasy game, it's a dungeon crawl, it's got this, it's got leveling up, it's got, all of the usual stuff. We've got dozens and dozens of these games. And games need something to set them a little bit apart and different. And this one has that. The way that it deals with the encounters and the conflict and the combat system, it actually works really well. So yeah, Reign of Hades, that's it for me. That's my coverage of the game done. I've covered it a few times on the channel, and that was a public playthrough in the evening of Scenario 2, and I'm looking forward to when that actually gets delivered. Next up, Saturday the 13th, Vicky was out for the day, so I used the opportunity to do a solo game, which I haven't really done any solo playthroughs this year. And I love doing some solo playthroughs, depending on the game. So I decided that I was going to start doing some solo playthroughs. And I put a poll up on my Patreon page, and my producers and above voted, and Feast for Odin, with the Norwegians expansion, got voted on for a solo playthrough. Now, I've already done a solo playthrough of Feast for Odin with the Norwegians expansion, so it's nothing new, but I love the game. Feast for Odin is a top 10 game for me. I absolutely love playing it. I can't say anything bad about Feast for Odin, really. I just think it's a really, really good game. It's made better with Norwegians, but I firmly believe that the base game of Feast for Odin is still a fantastic game. Maybe even a 9.5 out of 10, or maybe a 9.2, and Norwegians makes it a 9.6, 9.7, something like that. I don't give games 10. But if I did give games 10, I'd give Feast for Odin 9 and Feast for Odin Norwegians 10. So it's better, but I don't go with what a lot of other people say in that the base game is unplayable. The base game is not unplayable. The base game is an extremely good game, but Norwegians does make it better. Next up, on the 14th, was a games day at the local Cranbrook Games Group, and I got to play Inventions. Now, I've already spoken about Inventions quite a bit, but this was my game of Inventions that I'd played after that Scrappy Learning game. And that Scrappy Learning game where we made some rules mistakes, we didn't know what we were doing, we had to get help and things like that. This one was, now that I know how to play the game, I'm going to teach 2 people how to play, and we played it. So I played with Joel and Chris. Neither of them had played it before. Chris had never played a Lacerda game before. I taught them how to play. They were both great people to teach because they listened, they took it in, they asked a couple of questions, but then we got on and we were done within 3 hours. 3 hours for a heavy Lacerda game. There was a 5-player game of Obsession going on the next table, and they finished just before us. And it was like, how have we managed to do it in that time? And yeah, it was really good. So anyway, that was Inventions. And then in the afternoon, Mark and Sally taught me how to play Ezra and Nehemiah. I don't know how you pronounce it. I think that's how you pronounce it. If I've got it close, let me know, because I am going to be doing the official how to play video for this game, and I'm going to be starting work on it next week. This is from Garfield Games, and that was my first game of it. So yeah, Ezra and Nehemiah. Yeah, it's a religious themed game, but don't let that put you off, because ultimately it's a Euro game where you're trying to do lots of things and get lots of points. And yeah, I needed to learn how to play in order to start creating the how to play video. I have now played it. I did quite well. I think I lost by a point. I think I came second by like a point or 2 points or something like this. I went with the strategy of, what did I go with? Building lots of things in the temple and writing lots of the religious books or reading lots of the passages of the Bible or something like that. I didn't do much with the wall building or anything else. But yeah, lots of different options in this game, lots of different routes to victory. And yeah, I'll be working on that over the next few weeks. Next up, on the 16th of April, this was a Tuesday night. Vicky's out doing a cake making course. Now, what's it called? Petit foire course or something. Anyway, she's off making nice things that she brings home to eat. And I thought, right, well, this is an opportunity to get some more solo games in. So I did Ark Nova with the Marine Worlds expansion with the Arno bot. Now, I've never played with the Arno bot before. I've heard very good things about it, but many of you will know my comfort level with solo modes. Even though the solo mode that's included with Ark Nova, I think is not a great solo mode. It's basically just play the game. I quite often like that. I quite often don't like that. In some games, like any Uwe Rosenberg game, like Feast for Odin, I love the solo mode because I just get to play the game. So why am I saying that the solo mode of Ark Nova and, for example, Terraforming Mars, I don't like those solo modes? It's because any game where you've got a massive deck of cards, you are going to get high levels of randomness and swinginess based on whether you get cards that go with your strategy or not. And in a solo game, you don't actually cycle through that many of the cards, not as many as you would do in a multiplayer game. So therefore, because you're seeing a smaller section of the cards, the random element of whether you get the cards that are good for you or bad for you is actually increased. But Arnobot is an artificial opponent. Now, my comfort level for solo modes means that I am not keen on having to follow flowcharts or anything like that. And the Arnobot is a free print and play bot that you print off 5 cards and you can do it. But somebody has coded an app which does all of the leg lifting for you. So I decided to use the app. Now, that stream was a bit rough because I'd never played it before and I was kind of learning as I went, and there were a few parts of it where I definitely got confused and I wasn't sure what to do because I'd never done it. I'd never used it before. Thankfully, the designer of the Arnobot was in the chat watching and helping me out with it. And I have to say that I would find running the Arnobot physically with the cards too much for me. But the app, literally just telling me exactly what it would do. Not exactly. There's a few bits that you do need to know how to interpret. But in terms of, I don't need to make any choices myself. I just follow through the steps and what it's telling me to do. And yeah, it went really well. Ark Nova is a fantastic game. Again, it's made better with the Marine Worlds expansion, but I do really enjoy the game, and I would play with the Arnobot again. If I wanted to play Ark Nova solo, I would definitely use the Arnobot from now on. Customizable difficulty as well, which is really good. Next up, on the 18th, I played Earth. So this is the Cranbrook Games Group. I played 2 games of Earth with the new expansion, which is Abundance. And on the 19th, I did a live playthrough. So this is on the channel now, Earth Abundance, which the Kickstarter is running right now, I believe. And I played it twice at the Cranbrook group the night before in order to practice the game, learn the game. And actually, it's been quite a while since I've played Earth, so I needed a refresher session myself. So I played 2 5-player games of Earth at the Cranbrook group on the Thursday. And then, and this is on the channel if you're interested in watching it, a full playthrough of Earth with the Abundance expansion. It was a 3-player playthrough that we did, and that's on the channel now. Now, what's really interesting about that playthrough that we did is I was of the opinion that the 4 goals that come out for the game, the fauna, you need to go for them. There's so many points there with those that you have to go for them. You have to do at least 2 of them, probably 3, maybe even 4. Yeah, I won't spoil it too much, but let's just say one of the players was extremely competitive with a very, very competitive score and did none of them because he did other stuff instead. So, abundance. Now, what does abundance give you? If you already enjoy Earth and you already think it's a great game, then abundance is a no-brainer. But one of the things that's the main new feature, I think, with abundance is this new resource which are called the seeds. And those seeds have various effects. They're very, very flexible. You can use them to get rid of them for soil, sprouts, growth, all sorts of things. You can compost cards from the deck. So they are multi-use. There's all sorts of things you can do with them. But the one thing that you can do with them, which is special and new, is that you can go searching through the deck for a card that matches the objective that you need. So, for example, those fauna cards that come out, and one of them says, if you've got 6 or more cards with a colour in the name, and you're like, oh, I've got 5 of them, and you're constantly drawing cards looking for a card with a colour in its name, you can use a seed. You can use that seed to say, right, I'm going to go looking for a card with a colour in its name. And then what you do is you pick up the deck, and you go through until you find a card with a colour in its name, and you go, there you go, and you put it in your hand. So you can't choose a specific card, but you can get a category of card that you need to help you with the scoring condition. So that is the main new thing about it. They've also fixed the fact that you couldn't really take the blue action at the start of the game because you didn't have anywhere to store your sprouts. They fixed that as well. So yeah, Earth Abundance, I will never now not play it with that expansion. One of the reasons for that is all of the cards are all shuffled into my deck, and to go through and have to take them all out would be an absolute pain. But no, I think unlike most expansions, which I always say play the base game first, with this one you could probably mix the expansion in right from the start. So yeah, that's Earth. Now, what I've not got listed here, because I've forgotten to record it, is after that playthrough of Earth, because it only took an hour and a half, Paul was here, Rob was here, we were like, well, let's go downstairs and play another short game. So I got Forest Shuffle out. So we had a day of card games based on trees and stuff. And we played Forest Shuffle with the new expansion, the Alpine expansion, which is due out very soon, or it might be out right now, I can't quite remember. Paul and Rob had never played that before. I have played a few games of Forest Shuffle, but I'm liking Forest Shuffle the more I play it. I was a bit sceptical the first couple of times that I played it, but yeah, the more and more I've played it, the more I enjoy it. Now, it is one of those games a little bit like Earth, Ark Nova, Terraforming Mars, where you've got this big deck of cards. It's not necessarily unique cards, but you can get lucky or unlucky with the draw. If you're going with a European hare strategy and then you don't draw any European hares or whatever, then, that's just it. But you've got to do the best with the cards that you get. And it's just a nice game. It plays nicely. The card abilities are nice. And again, we had very different strategies in that game. So yeah, Forest Shuffle, I'm really liking that. Next up, on the 19th, Square One. So Project L, Square One. I talked about this briefly earlier on and said I played it a few times at BayCon. On the 19th, these were the live streams. These are on the channel now if you're interested. So if you are a fan of Project L, definitely check out these videos because Project L Square One is in the same family. And there's a lot of people that have watched those videos and commented to me and said, I've already got Project L. This doesn't seem to be offering anything new. Why would I bother buying it? And I absolutely get that. I can see why people would think that, because the games are very, very similar. In both games, it's your turn. You've got 3 actions. You can take a piece. You can place a piece. You can take a new sequence. You can do the master action. Now, there are some subtle differences in the game. It's not just exactly the same game. I think I might actually prefer Square One. But I do like tessellating the pieces. I do like the polyomino tessellating the pieces in the original Project L. But I like the simplicity of Square One. Square One is actually a more simple game because you don't have to do the whole tessellating of pieces. It's a lot clearer as to what you actually need. But also, it doesn't have the finishing touches at the end of the game. So it is, believe it or not, a simpler game than Project L. But anyway, my job on those videos is to just help you make a decision about whether it's the kind of game that you want to back. But I've played it, I've enjoyed it, and that is Project L Square One. Next up, on the 23rd, the solo playthrough series continues. This time, Great Western Trail, New Zealand. Now, for those of you that have seen these videos, and if you haven't seen these videos, I'm trying something different with these solo playthroughs. So I've done 3 of them now, last month. Feast for Odin, Ark Nova, and Great Western Trail. And what I'm trying to do, because these are not sponsored videos, and I'm doing these videos in addition to all of the other content that I'm creating, is what a lot of people don't realise is the amount of time it takes to actually get everything ready for one of those playthroughs. I've got to set the studio up, I've got to set the lighting up, I've got to get the cameras all moved around, because I have the cameras in different positions depending on what type of video I'm doing. I have to relearn the game, then I have to get the game out, I have to set up the game and do all of it. It takes 2 to 3 hours. So what you might see is, just Paul's playing a game on a Tuesday evening, right? He's taken the Tuesday evening off to bring us another live stream. But what you don't see is the 2 to 3 hours of work that I've had to do to prepare for that. And when I'm not being paid to do that, I'm effectively having to take time off work in order to be able to do that. So I decided for these solo playthroughs that I'd do something different. And in each of these videos that I've done over this last few weeks, I've started the video with the game in front of me. I haven't even taken it out. And I've made a point of not relearning the rules beforehand, mainly because I haven't got time, because I'm doing too many other things. So each of these videos has been very rough. Instead of, Paul's doing a solo playthrough and he's already got the game set up and he already knows how to play, it's like, nope. It's more like a fly on the wall. Paul fancies playing this game tonight. Right, watch Paul unbox the game, get the game out, set it up, relearn how to play, and then play it. And that's what each of these videos has been. Now, Feast for Odin with Norwegians, I know that game. 99% I know that game. Ark Nova, I was a bit rusty on. Great Western Trail New Zealand, I've only played once, and I've never played the solo mode of Great Western Trail New Zealand. So that was very, very rough. Now, I enjoyed it. I think Great Western Trail is a fantastic game. I think Great Western Trail New Zealand is the best of the Great Western Trail games, and the solo mode is really good. It's a very Paul-friendly solo mode, and I think it's fantastic. But yeah, that was a struggle. That certainly wasn't a nice, relaxing evening. It was a 3-hour live stream where I felt quite uncomfortable because I didn't really remember how to play the game. And thank you to everybody in the chat who helped me through that. But it was a very good game, and I got absolutely thrashed by Sarah. Next, moving on, the 26th, I took the day off work to do a day of live streams for a change. I did 2 live streams that day, neither of which were sponsored, so these are all funded through Patreon. I did Federation. I did a tutorial and playthrough of Federation, which is a fantastic game. Really, really good game. I've talked about this before. I'm playing it quite a bit on Board Game Arena as well, and I have covered it on the channel. I would say that if you are interested in Federation, I would recommend watching my earlier video rather than the one that I did last week. The one that I did last week was quite rough, and even though I know the game, I've been playing it on Board Game Arena, which means there's a few bits about the actual physical game that I'd forgotten how they work. And in the evening, we played Anunnaki. Now, Anunnaki is a big box game from Cranio Creations that I covered when it was on Kickstarter. And again, if you want to watch one video on Anunnaki, do not watch my video from last week. Watch the one that I did like 2 years ago as part of the Kickstarter campaign, because that was a sponsored video. It was done correctly. It was fine. The one that I did last week was very, very rough. I'd done 2 streams in a day. We'd done Federation in the afternoon. We did Anunnaki in the evening. And I will be honest with you, I did not remember how to play Anunnaki. I remembered the basics, but essentially that live stream that we did last Friday, which was fun, but it was a very much another fly on the wall, watch Paul and some of his friends play a game. So we were learning the game as we go. I was pretty much teaching from the rulebook. It was a very, very rough teach. But what do I think about Anunnaki? Well, my thoughts on the game are actually the same as they were when I played this a couple of years ago. That this is actually a really good game. Now, the game does not need the massive box. It does not need all of the nice looking miniatures. They make it look nice, but it really doesn't need them. it's a weird game, because if you look at a game like this and you see the game with the miniatures and you'll think, this is going to be one of those styles of games, it's actually a Euro game. Now, it does have conflict in it, and the conflict is done with cards, but it's done in a clever way. And also, this is a 2-hour game. This is a maybe 2.5 hour game. This isn't a long, drawn-out game. It's actually very compact and very concise in what it is trying to do. It's let down a bit by some graphic design issues. And it's also let down, I have to say, and I made this very, very clear in the live playthrough, if you want to see me getting annoyed, then I got annoyed a few times in that game. And I have to say, even though I have a good working relationship with Cranio, seeing typos on cards, it's frustrating, it's annoying, and it should not happen. The amount of time and effort that went into the design of that game, the development of that game, the artwork, the miniatures, the production, everything about that, and then you're playing it and you've got typos on the cards. It's frustrating because I know how simple a job it is to avoid that happening. Now, since that playthrough, I have spoken to Capstone Games. Now, Capstone Games are going to be doing the version of the game for the US. And I said, are you aware that there are some typos in the Cranio Creations version of the game? And will you be able to fix them before you print your version? And they've said, yes, leave that with us. Thank you for letting us know. I would have hoped that they would have known anyway. But yeah, so don't let that put you off the game. The game is a good game, but it's just frustrating. Now, those typos didn't stop us understanding what the card did, but still, they should have just got an English editor to check the text on the cards. And if they did, then I'm sorry to that English editor, but yeah. Anyway, Anunnaki, good game. Disappointed by typos, but the game is actually a really good game. Next up, on the 27th, so Sunday afternoon, we played Imperial Assault. Now, this was played over Tabletop Simulator, and the reason why we played Imperial Assault is this Saturday is Star Wars Day, and we are going to be playing Imperial Assault all day. It's been 2 years since I last played Imperial Assault, so I needed a refresher. So we took a few hours off on Sunday afternoon, and me, Rick, Paul, and Brendan, we all got together and we played Star Wars Imperial Assault. All of us had played it before, but it had been a while for all of us, and all of us remembered the rules differently. So by the end of that game, we think we now know how to play, but it was pretty rough because we were getting things wrong all of the time. All of that was in preparation for this Saturday, which is going to be live stream. So yeah, heads up, this Saturday, Star Wars Day, Imperial Assault is what we're going to be playing. I'll talk about that more next month. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is Maracaibo on Board Game Arena. Now, normally I talk about my online plays later in this, but this was a live stream. This was done as part of a charity online convention put on by the Herefordshire Games Club. I was going to say Hertfordshire Games Club. That was me. The Herefordshire Games Club, and they do this online gaming thing for charity. And they invited me on as a guest to basically do a live stream. Some people entered and won, and they got to play Maracaibo with me. So it was played on Board Game Arena, but that was a live stream that is on the channel now if you're interested in seeing how Maracaibo works on Board Game Arena. Maracaibo is either a top 10 or top 20 game for me, so I was never going to say no to it. And it was a great game. Really, really good game. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. That is everything that I've played in the month, live in person or on the channel or whatever. That's a lot. But I've also been playing some games online asynchronously on Board Game Arena. So I've played another game of Maracaibo. I've actually played Age of Innovation, which I think is a fantastic game. This is like Terra Mystica 2nd edition. But Age of Innovation is currently like on alpha or beta on Board Game Arena, and it's a really good implementation, and it's a fantastic game. I also played a game of Shogun from Queen Games, which I've been wanting to play that for quite a while. I think I have played it once a long time ago. But yeah, I played a game of Shogun and it was a nice idea, but unfortunately I played the whole game not actually knowing all of the rules. there were certain things that were happening in the game and I didn't understand what they were doing, and I had to keep going and looking at the rulebook. But I've played it at the wrong time of the month. I've got so many things that I'm working on at the moment. My brain was full. I didn't actually dedicate the time that I should have done to actually learning the game before actually playing it. I still won. I don't quite know how, but yeah, I think it's a good game. I think it's a good game. It uses a cube tower for combat. You throw lots of cubes into a tower, and what comes out is the units that survive. But yeah, that's Shogun. So that's on Board Game Arena. And I also played another game of Feast for Odin on Board Game Arena as well. That's everything. That is all of the games that I've played. So as I mentioned earlier on, I'm doing a contest. And to enter the contest, you need to click on the link in the description of this video and enter the contest. But also, you need to leave me a comment in this video and let me know which of those games that I talked about is your favourite game. If you want to tell me why, great, but just leave me a comment and let me know which of those games that I talked about is your favourite game. Right, time for a Patreon update. And the first thing I wanted to say is apologies, because every month in these videos, I always give you an update on the Patreon, and I put an image on screen of everybody new who's joined me in that month. And the last video log, and maybe this is why the views are so low on the last video log, I don't know, but the last video log, I completely forgot. And it was only when the video had gone out and had been released that I went, wait a minute, I didn't give a Patreon update. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to say a big thank you to everybody who joined me in March. On screen now is an image of all of the new Patreon supporters that I gained in March, some of which might have since left, but thank you very much to everybody who started supporting me in March. And now on screen is a list of everybody who started supporting me in April. So a big thank you to everybody who started supporting me both in March and in April. And as always, a huge thank you to everybody who continues to support me. In fact, the amount of videos that I've done. So last week, I can't remember how many videos I did last week. 5 or 6 live streams? I can't remember. There was the solo game. There was the ISS Vanguard stream. There was the Federation. There was Anunnaki. In fact, last week, none of them were sponsored. So I had an entire week where all of the live streams that I did, and I think I did the Q&A as well, none of them were sponsored. So I didn't get paid anything for any of those videos. And as you probably know, all of my advertising and revenue goes to charity. Not just from this video, but from all of my other videos. So all of those live streams I did, I don't make any money from them. This week, I think I'm doing 10 live streams this week. And one of them is sponsored. I'm having a crazy period at the moment where I'm just doing loads and loads of live streams. And very few of those are actually paid for by publishers. And that's what the Patreon support is for. So it's all good, it's all fine, but that is where the Patreon funds are going, and that's why I have the Patreon, because it allows me to basically take time off the paid work in order to produce content, a lot of which is voted on by patrons. So yeah, thank you very much to all of my Patreon supporters for making what I do possible. And if you want to support me, you can do so at patreon.com/gaming rules. Right, coming soon. So what is happening in the future? Well, tomorrow I'm going to be covering Nucleum Australia. Now, I'm probably going to be releasing this video either tonight or tomorrow morning, assuming it's okay. So by the time you watch this video, that Nucleum has probably already happened. But Friday night, Nucleum Australia, there's going to be a live playthrough. I'm really looking forward to that because I do like Nucleum as a game, but I don't really know anything about Nucleum Australia. I haven't even unboxed it yet. I'm going to be doing that tonight. Also coming soon, and this may be tomorrow, or it may be Saturday, the how to play video for Inventions. I've spent about 65 hours working on that video over the last few weeks, and it is almost ready to go. I'm going to put some finishing touches to it this afternoon, and then that'll be up soon. So that is the how to play video for Inventions. And then next Tuesday, after the bank holiday, in the afternoon, I'm going to be doing a tutorial and playthrough for Inventions, as mentioned earlier on. Then next Friday, I'm quite excited about this. This is a new game that's coming out called Rove. Now, I didn't really know much about Rove, but now I do know a bit more about it because it's from the designer of Crimson Scales, which is a fan-made expansion that was turned into a reality expansion for Gloomhaven. And also, one of the artists is the same, or the main artist is the same. So if you look at Rove and you know Gloomhaven, you'll think, well, this looks a bit familiar. Yeah, similar artist. I don't know much about the game. The copy should be on its way to me. I need to follow that up, but I'm going to be covering that next Friday. So yeah, that's quite exciting. I have another day of games coming, which will be another one where we just play games that are not sponsored. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to be covering World Wonders with the expansion. World Wonders is one of my favourite games from last year. It's just a beautiful, simple, streamlined game that just plays really, really nicely. So yeah, I haven't actually covered it on the channel yet, but I'm going to be covering it with the expansion, and that's going to be happening at the end of this month. There's going to be more ISS Vanguard as well. They will all be live streamed. And at the end of this month, I'm going to be going to UK Games Expo. I am hoping to get the next vlog done before I go to UK Games Expo, because the UK Games Expo is pretty much at the very end of this month. So hopefully I will be able to get the next vlog done before that. That is most of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. The only other couple of things that I wanted to mention is I've been doing a lot more painting. So I'm going to put some pictures on screen now of some of the things that I've been painting. This is the group of pit goblins from Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. This is a set of 6 Uruk warriors, I think, also from Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. This figure is actually from Battle Lore 2. Now, I've got a game of Battle Lore 2 planned for July, and I've painted loads of the figures from this one, but I've still got a few outstanding. In fact, quite a lot. But this one's from Battle Lore 2. This is from Star Wars Imperial Assault. This is MHD-19, the medical droid. I'm going to be playing this on Saturday, so I've painted this one. And I've also, believe it or not, I've bought myself a game. I've bought myself a copy of Blackstone Fortress, and I've started painting one of the miniatures from it. This is not finished yet, but I wanted to put a picture up on screen because I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I've spent a lot of time on this one over the last week and a half. It's not finished, but yeah. And the only other thing I think I wanted to mention was GridCon. GridCon is the board game convention that myself and Vicky organised together. GridCon 5 is happening this November, and tickets go on sale to the public on Sunday. So this coming Sunday, which is the 5th of May, 5 o'clock PM, we're going to be putting the remaining tickets available to the public. Now, I say the remaining tickets, and I didn't really talk about this much before, but in order to say thank you to my Patreon supporters, if you are a Patreon supporter of mine, if you are an existing supporter of mine, you do have early access to the tickets. And the reason I do that is because GridCon cannot run without the Patreon support. It is a standalone event, but it is organised by Gaming Rules. And although the event covers itself in terms of costs, it doesn't cover the 100 to 150 hours that I spend in the year organising everything for GridCon, which is, yeah, I mean, it is massively time consuming. I just guessed at that figure, but it's probably not far off. There's a huge amount of time that goes into preparing and planning for the convention, and that is time that I have to take off doing other stuff. So the Patreon, for me, it helps fund my time to help me organise GridCon. The charity raffle alone takes dozens and dozens of hours of organisation and massive amounts of planning. So as a thank you to my Patreon supporters, I give them early access to the tickets, and a lot of the tickets have already been bought. There are some tickets left for the public, but they will sell out fairly quickly. So if you are watching this video and you want to come to GridCon and you don't already have tickets, then I'm not saying become a Patreon supporter of mine so that you get early access tickets. What I'm saying is have your finger on the button at 5 o'clock on Sunday, the 5th of May, to grab those last few tickets that are available. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing everybody in November. Anyway, speaking of UK Games Expo, just in case you don't get chance to, or just in case I don't get to do the next video log before Expo, and just in case you don't get to watch it, if you are going to UK Games Expo, let me know. If you are one of my Patreon supporters and you have access to the Slack channel, there is a discussion channel on there where people can arrange to meet up, play games together and everything else. If you're not on the Slack channel, then I recommend joining the Slack channel. But if you don't want to join the Slack channel, drop me a message and I will try and get to you the details of where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing, because I'm going to be running some demos of Galactic Cruise. And you can have a space in them if you want to. Just let me know. And I'm going to be meeting various people in the afternoon, playing some games in the evening and stuff like that. So yeah, let me know. Right, I think that's everything. Did I talk about the Patreon? I did. And don't forget to enter the contest. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching.